Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Duval Rundown. Rick Ballou kind enough to join us. And Rick, I tell you what, I wasn't there yesterday at practice, but boy, it seemed like a pretty good one. Give us a total rundown. The floor is yours. What stood out to you yesterday at practice?
Feisty practice. They were chippy yesterday, which was good to see. And that includes first play, they started from their own 1 yard line coming out of the end zone, so they had to go 99 yards. And Andrew Wingard just took Tank Bigsby and tackled him and threw him to the ground. So I tweeted out, I was like, live tackling? And then obviously that was a mistake by Dewey. They continued to go through that 11 on 11, but it was a very physical practice. I thought that running the football, Travis Etienne stood out to me. Tootin had maybe his best practice yet. He broke two long ones, one between the guards, and other he went to the right and showed his incredible speed, getting by Christian Braswell. It was a better day today for Trevor than it was on today's Wednesday. It would have been Monday's practice, a better effort yesterday than Monday. Hey, we saw more frustration, with Brian Thomas Jr. on Monday, where he dropped the ball, ended up being an interception, and fired his helmet. Yesterday, he went down for a moment. He went down, went and visited with the trainers. He came back, but he did not participate in any more of the practice. He stood there on the sideline. I thought defensively, really good day yesterday for Emmanuel Ogbah. Okay, it was the same for Walker and Hines Allen. They've just been spectacular, and I know that's what makes last Saturday night's game a little bit more mysterious as to why there wasn't a great pass rush then. But it certainly happened yesterday in practice. It was a good one for Ogbah. Travis Hunter yesterday, a defensive day. He didn't put on the penny and go to the other side. He was exclusively on, primarily left cornerback position. He did move around a little bit, but I mean, you talk about sticky and his ability to just, hang on to wide receivers. He did show he was human. He got flagged with a pass interference where he grabbed a jersey down in the red zone. So that was interesting to see. But all 30 plays during group, Travis Hunter yesterday playing on the defensive side. We saw a fight with Quentin Allen Jr., who I got an opportunity to talk with after practice yesterday, and linebacker Combs got after it. I asked Allen Jr., what's going on here? This is the third, fourth time you've done this. He said he's just the ultimate competitor. And when the play's over and the practice is over, they're friends, but it's competition when the light is on. So I thought that was a very interesting way of answering it. Overall, I thought it was a good day. And, we'll see coming up Sunday at 1:00. I think it's a very important day, particularly at the line of scrimmage, to see what they can do both offensively and defensively, certainly after allowing, Mason Rudolph to do whatever he wanted to do this past Saturday night.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously they're off today, but then Liam Cohen has talked about more of a scrimmage feel to Thursday's practice. How big of a practice do you think that will be in terms of determining whether starters play against the Saints on Sunday?
Yeah, I wonder if it changes things. I would expect that after practice on Thursday, tomorrow, Liam Cohen's going to tell us what the game plan is as far as starters. But they need a good practice. They absolutely do, and there's things that need to be worked on. Particularly that defense. That's the biggest surprise to me. I complain about first possession all the time, perhaps more than anyone else around here, because it just drives me crazy. And I know that it drives Jaguar fans crazy that, they can't grab the ball at 1:00 on a Sunday and do anything with it outside of a 3 and out. So, I like what happened on Saturday night, a 12-play drive, 44 yards, 7:19 off the clock. Marred by those penalties, but defensively, and I just can't figure out what was going on. I mean, rushing 3, dropping Josh Hines Allen, vanilla, yeah, but I mean, way off. I went back and watched it. I mean, defensive backs are 8 or 9 yards off the wide receiver. So, maybe it was a little bit of tomfoolery. Maybe it was, we're going to absolutely show nothing here, but, you also have to get ready for that opening game against Carolina. So, Hayes, I think in tomorrow's scrimmage, I really, I'm always on the offense. This needs to be a big day for the defense, and need to see a little bit more, certainly from the interior. And hey, you can make the case that whether it's the starting 11 or maybe 12 or 13, that if they had a game this Sunday, you're down 4 guys. You're down Armstead. You're down Mason Smith. Tyson Campbell missed his 2nd consecutive practice yesterday with an undisclosed injury. And Buster Brown, who was the leader before he went down, going back almost a month ago, that's 4 guys who are either starters or in your rotation. So you're going to need some other guys that, willing to step up and take advantage of that against the Saints on Sunday.
Yeah, I wonder if Thursday is like the last real physical practice or really anything that the starters will have, because you are now 24 days away from the opener. So you've now gotten into a window where you're not just worrying about a season-ending injury, an ACL, an Achilles, something like that. But now you're in the window where an intermediate injury is going to affect the regular season. I'm kind of the belief that because Liam Cohen called it a scrimmage, that we're going to see 1s versus 1s for 40 snaps tomorrow and nothing with them on Sunday. That tomorrow might be sort of the last physical experience for the starting lineup before they get to week 1 with Carolina.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. I kind of think the other way. I believe that the most extensive playing time that the ones are going to get will be Sunday in New Orleans. But your way of looking at it is intriguing. Perfect world. I like to see both. I love your idea of 1-on-1 tomorrow. I mean, I'm excited about tomorrow's practice, and I'd love to see that. I hope we get that opportunity. And there's still some things out there that, trying to figure out. Depending on who you talk to, Yasir Abdullah is on the cut line, yet he's listed as a starter. And, in my mind, when you're in your base, Ventrell Miller should be in there with Lloyd and Aloakon. I think he's a much better linebacker, but so that all of a sudden becomes and Gardeck's going to come back, and is he going to finally give it an opportunity this weekend? He's running out of days. I mean, if they're going to get something out of him, let's see. But I've thought all along that the waiver wire, if they add, it's going to be at defensive tackle. I just wondered about that other outside linebacker position. I mean, we all understand that primarily they're going to be in nickel coverage, but it's still a big deal. Your third linebacker. And, I haven't really seen anything yet in camp. I don't know about you, that has really been like, wow, now that's impressive. There's been a lot of impressive things at other positions, but I'm still, that it doesn't get talked about, I think, almost enough. We're always focused on the corners and the interior defensive line and things like that, but just interested in your thoughts about that third linebacker position.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's very close between Ventrell and Devin Lloyd. That was one that I was surprised that there wasn't an or next to. I think they had 7 or 8 ors, which is ridiculous. But that was one in which they didn't have it, which makes more sense to me that you'd have it there at that linebacker spot. We know Foye is obviously entrenched. But yeah, I mean, I think between Devin Lloyd and Ventrell Miller and Kaiser, I mean, they've got a pretty good battle going on there. One spot where we know is there's a legit or is running backs. You mentioned it earlier with your interview with LaQuint Allen and talking about, that group as a whole. Tootin obviously stood out to you yesterday. What's the pecking order right now as you see it? And do you think that they do have a chance to maybe make a deal or something, because it looks like they could have a surplus at that position?
Yeah, you got to look at it one of two ways. I mean, we know that the 12 offensive plays that they did run on Saturday night against Pittsburgh, it was ETN. He was the starter. He got 3 touches. He had 2 carries, missed the hole on his second carry, which is a little bit concerning to me. But then we saw what we really believe that is going to be his strength in this Liam Cohen offense, and that is the screen game. He's had a really good camp. He practiced well again yesterday. So it's either he is the number one guy and they've blocked out all the noise, or maybe you can make the case that they're really showcasing what he can still do. And then if they get the right offer, do they move along from him and then go Tank, Tootin, Allen Jr.? That's going to be fascinating. We saw Tank drop a ball again. That can't be part of it. And I know you
boy,
can
he
say, well, it's
struggles
only
with
the
that.
preseason.
I mean, I've been disappointed that hasn't come along a little bit better. I mean, it's been like that throughout camp.
But it has. So, I think the thinking is don't put him in a situation where you throw a pass to him. Problem is that this is a chess match, and defensive coordinators are going to be smart enough to understand that when Bigsby's in, they're not going to throw the ball to him, so you can almost leave him open. Whereas when ETN is in and Tootin is in and Allen Jr. is in, they are much more of a well-rounded back who can absolutely, those 3 can catch the ball. So, it sounds simple to say, just don't throw it to Tank, but it didn't work that way because the defense, they're thinking as well. But no, I do. I think right now ETN is clearly the number one guy. As I said, I thought Tootin had arguably his best practice. It was a little bit of a setback when he had that hamstring tightness. But Hayes, I think it's been the best position group out there. I mean, you can maybe make a case for wide receivers. I don't know. Maybe certainly the starting edge would come into play. And I think Trevor's had a good camp. But I think the running backs position group has been the best that we have seen. Right now, I think it's ETN, it's Tank, it's Tootin, it's Allen Jr. and it's Jackson. And then that becomes a conversation. I mean, you're not going to keep 5 backs on your roster. Can you bury this guy and hope that no one picks him up at 236 pounds and he just looks like he could end up being a really good football player? So, I wonder if that's the only or the primary reason. If they were to move ETN, it would be they just love these younger backs and they want to be able to keep them where we know this is it for ETN. Even if he has a great year, there's just not value in running backs. He's going to be gone after the season.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like Jaquindon Jackson only played like 2 offensive snaps against the Steelers, so it does look like they might be hiding him a little bit, which makes sense. That's good gamesmanship. This will be a test of that, particularly if Liam Cohen does decide to rest 24 players, because obviously you've only got so many bodies, and then obviously in the Dolphins game you have to think no one's playing in that game of consequence. So watch his snap count, because if he is not getting a lot of workload in the preseason, I'm talking about the undrafted rookie Jackson, that will be an indicator that they really are trying to figure out a way to keep that secret from the other 31 clubs, which again, that's good football management. So yeah, it's interesting at running backs because it does seem like they have a surplus there. And again, and I agree with you. I think they've all had good camps. I'm not saying Tank Bigsby hasn't had a good camp. I think he's a really good runner, but he is a liability if you're trying to, complete a pass to him. And so to your point, it for defensive coordinators, that's an element that you don't really have to defend when Bigsby is in the field. But when ETN's out there, you absolutely have to worry about the screen game, which I think has been outstanding. It's been really fun watching that part of Liam Cohen's offensive scheme in this training camp, how well they utilize that screen game. Let's talk about the offensive line, because
real quick, yes.
Sure.
You wonder about it. Tank was really bothered by my tweet yesterday. I mean, those emojis, and it became like a almost a story on its own. He hadn't tweeted out in a couple of months, and all I said was that Dewey, blew him up, which was true. And then he went emoji, 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 Pinocchio emoji. I don't know if it was his way of maybe he's pissed at Dewey that, why did Dewey go live? But it kind of took on a life of its own. So it makes you wonder, is Tank frustrated? Does Tank think, hey, listen, I'm the best back. I need the ball. I didn't get an opportunity on Saturday night with the starters. I just thought it was interesting because, you've talked with Tank several times. He's kind of a low-key, almost unassuming type of guy. You wouldn't think that his personality would be, I'm going to react to a local media guy who saw the play and wrote about the play or tweeted about the play and then got a reaction 20 minutes after practice.
Yeah.
I mean, he hadn't even showered yet, and he was on his cell phone. He had to have Googled it, searched his name to be like, what are they saying about me? Does he do that every day, or was he upset about that hit by Dewey? So anyway, I just thought that was a fascinating thing yesterday.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there could be some twists and turns in the running back room by the time we get to week one. In terms of the offensive line, we saw McCary back working at right tackle when Anton Harrison had an excused day. Chuma Edoga continues to draw praise for what he's been able to do at right guard. We know Hainsey's locked in at center. Where do you see this offensive line? We know McCary is going to start somewhere. I mean, he's a talented player. His contract would stipulate that obviously he is going to be one of the five. How do you see this offensive line, this starting five forming as we do get now very deep now into training camp?
I don't think you can take Ed Oga out. I mean, he's been maybe their best lineman, even backed up by Pro Football Focus, which we can take what you want from that, particularly in the preseason. But he seems to be the one constant. Is it a battle right now between Anton Harrison and Patrick McCary to be your starting right tackle?
Or could it be McCary at
where
right
else is it going to happen?
Anton at left tackle and Walker Little is the swing?
Possibly, yeah. And I keep thinking Ezra Cleveland, but I've talked with some former offensive linemen, including our colleague Leon Searcy, who seems to think that Cleveland has picked up his game a little bit here in camp. So, I mean, I'd love to say this is a pleasant problem, but usually you say that when it's a strength. This isn't a strength. This is still a massive weakness. I mean, this is their Achilles heel. The offensive line has been just terrible. And right now it feels like, you've got 6 guys for 5 spots. So that would be fascinating. And if that's the case, I mean, he's got to practice more there. Anton Harrison's got to get more action at left tackle. I mean, we know that at Oklahoma in 23 starts, 22 were at left tackle. The former regime never drafted a guy and played him at that position. They always moved him. So he's been at right tackle in his career. But, we talk about hiding things. If that's truly going to happen, he needs to start practicing on the left side. What do you think?
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that was what I was going to ask you next is, like, at what point do you need the starting five to be crystallized? I mean, and because it seems like it's getting pretty quick. Like, you can get away with, tomorrow, the scrimmage, if you want to move guys around a little bit, and then, but beyond that, certainly I would say beyond Sunday, like, you need to come back from New Orleans knowing who your starting five are, because they need to start. I mean, again, we're no longer like 6 weeks out from the opener. I mean, we're 3 weeks away, and I think those guys do need significant practice time once you have your five to get out there and start building something.
Yeah. It hasn't gone the way I thought. Fred Johnson seemed to be the preseason, flavor. He's going to be the guy that may unseat Walker Little. And, I spoke with him, I think it was Monday. I spoke with Wyatt Milam. You really get the sense that he's a huge part of the future, but that's not now. I mean, that's certainly not in September of 2025. So if you're a Jags fan, I think what you hope is that they can find the best five and that it isn't forced upon you because of attrition. You know, you don't want to see a guy go down, then all of a sudden, okay, well, bam, here's your five. I'd like to know who wins the job. You know, who they think, all right, this is the five that Jacksonville needs. This is the five that they're going to start. But absolutely, I mean, that offensive line position is more important than any position group when it comes to being able to work together. I mean, look what they did. Yes, look what they did Monday in practice. I mean, 40 snaps at the line of scrimmage where all they did was call a play, sometimes audible the play, and then snap the ball and have the referee blow the whistle. I mean, and then have Liam Cohen. It was almost like he was talking in a way to like third graders, like, well, we had to get our cleats in the grass. I mean, it was football 101. And I think it was his way of hopefully pushing a button with this team. I mean, it's going to be really fascinating because it feels like Liam is going to tell us what's on his mind, whether it's his players or his coaches, and it's going to be incredibly refreshing. It already has been. But we know how today's athletes are. I mean, you got to be a buddy with them as well. That hard-ass discipline, that's gone now. It's been gone for decades. So I'm surprised that he's done this, Liam Cohen, but I like it, and I hope the team reacts to it.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was a very new school way of kind of humiliating them a little bit. Like, all right, if this is what I'm going to see when we're in front of our fans in our home stadium, and I'm talking about the Steelers' effort, not just the defensive lapses, but the penalties, starting the game with a false start. You know, then I think he's like, all right, then I'm taking you guys back to square one. You know, I'm not going to sit here and he may have done this behind closed doors. He may have yelled at him in meetings and stuff like that. But to your point, that doesn't seem to resonate anymore. But what does resonate is a practice where, okay, well, you're not going to catch the ball today. And you're not going to get a chance to run with the ball today. And you're not going to get a chance to cover somebody today or you know, fit a run gap or throw the football. You know, it's almost like the basketball coach who says, all right, put a seal over the basket. We're not shooting the ball today. And, you know, I thought it was effective, you know, but obviously we'll have to see if it leads to improved performance starting with tomorrow's scrimmage. Because, again, I think if the scrimmage goes well tomorrow and he sees what he needs to see out of the ones, my guess is they're not playing Sunday. And, again, it wasn't us that said scrimmage. That came from Liam Cohen. So otherwise, we'd have just shown up tomorrow thinking regular training camp practice, you know, probably somewhat physical, but we wouldn't have been thinking scrimmage. You know, you don't normally have those this deep into training camp with a road game on Sunday, unless the head coach is thinking, if I see what I need to see Thursday, then maybe I'm resting my guys against the Saints. But it'll be really interesting. Rick, man, thank you so much. I always appreciate your time, and we will look forward to you joining us again on Duval Rundown next week.
Appreciate it, Hayes. It's a great week. Look forward to today and tonight's show. And then again, tomorrow at the Miller Electric Center is going to be, who knows, maybe the best practice of the year coming up on Thursday.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for us on Duval Rundown. Thanks for watching, and we will be back with you next week. Take care.